Hello, DCTV production volunteers, especially those of you interested in being talent on our segments. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for doing that. And as an example, we have here a segment from that we shot at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo 2017. So while this wasn't done at DragonCon, it does show some of the same principles. I do recommend you watch it. It's about 6.5 minutes long. It's on YouTube. Just look it up there. It's on the DragonCon TV channel, or you can see the URL up there at the top. So Holly was the talent on this one. She did a couple of interviews, and we'll sort of walk through what she did and give you some tips along the way. I'm also going to refer to this project. This is a Vegas Pro project, what was used to create the final segment. So don't be, since you may not be editing, if you're watching this video, don't be too overwhelmed by this. I will walk you through it if I need to in this part of the how we edited this. So first things first, if as talent, it's your job to sort of know what you're getting into and presumably, think of good questions in advance. To that end, we do provide or try to provide for our segments notes. This should give you an idea of what you're getting into. Some things are going to be the same as last year. This is actually last year's segment notes. So further down, we have the costume contest, Friday night costuming contest, the Legend of the Chosen, and the Masquerade. So those are all somewhat similar. But we're also going to be doing a bunch of other different things. So you should, if we have notes, you should look at them at the notes to try to think of some good questions in advance. We do appreciate improv and humor in your, interactions with who you're talking to, but it's not absolutely mandatory. If you just want to play it straight, that's fine too. Um, so in this for this particular segment, we actually talked to two different people. This guy here is the organizer, and then we talked to I'm going to skip ahead here to one of the musicians who was at this event. He does sort of 8-bit chip tunes type stuff. That we could have done more interviews for this, and in many cases for segments we will do more interviews, but for this one we just did these two, and we thought we had enough. Um, so when you do talk to these people, obviously you want to maybe talk to them a little bit in advance, give them some idea of what you're going to ask, and then hop to it. You want to avoid making up any information. So if it's an area you don't know about, like if you're talking to this guy about chiptunes and you don't really know anything about that, ask the questions. Pretend to be someone who doesn't know, which might be the audience, and get those answers from the person you're talking to. If you do know something for sure, feel free to say it. But this is again, you want this to be mostly about the person you're talking about, not your extensive knowledge of this or that or the other. So you want to encourage the speaker to look at you, not the camera. So that's what Holly is doing here. She's interviewing. This is Professor Shy Guy here on the right, interviewing him, looking him in the eye, and they're talking to each other. They're actually having a conversation, and we're sort of pointing the camera at that conversation. You don't want to be looking at the camera except possibly at the beginning and the end. But during the actual interview, you're directing your questions to the person, and they're also going to look at you. Also, when you're handling the microphone, you want to first of all make sure the DCTV or rather the DragonCon flag is on the mic. That's what this thing is. This little box here is called a flag. Make sure the cover is on it as well. Hold it, firmly at the bottom. Be careful with this cable. You don't want to jostle this too much as you're moving your hand. Some of these microphones are going to have handling noise, and we want to minimize that. Also, you want to make sure that the cable doesn't pop out. If it does, please do stop recording because it's not like we can fix that in post. We really do need the audio, and we can start over again. And of course, when you are speaking into the mic yourself, I'm going to see if I can something like this is fine. Maybe point it more toward you, but don't swallow the mic, but don't also, of course, don't hold it too far away. And you want to project into the microphone. It's not going to create sound where there isn't. So you do want to project into the microphone. Hold the microphone close to the person you're talking to. You are going to be the one holding the microphone, by the way. You're not going to be passing the microphone around in general. If you do have a large group, you may have to pass the microphone around, but in general, you should maintain control of it. You should also try to hold it with the hand on the same side as the person you're talking to, as Holly is doing here. If you hold it in the other hand and reach across, you sort of have your arm in a big part of the view, and it's a little bit distracting. So you want to try to use this hand, hand in the middle, to point to the person you're talking to. So when you start a segment, so let's go over to here. So this is the beginning of this particular segment. You want to get a clean, what we're calling an intro clip, and that's what Holly is doing here. So we set up for a nice wide shot, and Holly is basically introducing the event. And we're going to give you a script for that, which you are welcome to use. You don't have to use it, but if you would prefer to have that. So it basically looks something like this. Hi, this is Holly with DragonCon TV, and I'm at DragonCon 2018 with whoever it is that I'm talking to, or if you're introducing if you're introducing a person. If you're introducing the event, which that intro clip is what that's for, you want to say what the event is. Clearly say the name of the event, the masquerade in the Marriott Marquis Ballroom, and say DragonCon 2018 as well. And that's going to be your intro clip. You also that's the very first thing you say, but the intro clip should also include just a brief summary of what this is about. So in this case, Holly was explaining the kinds of things that happen at the event. So there's arcade games, there's pinball games, there's a costume contest, there's music, there's board games, and that also gives us an opportunity to put some B-roll on top of it that shows those things. So let me just show you this intro clip here, just so you get an idea of how it would go.
This is Holly with DragonCon TV. I'm here at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo. There's video games, pinball, live music, wrestling, cosplaying, and some interesting guests. Let's check it out.
And this then leads into a montage. So she basically explained what the event is about. It could be a simple list like she did, and that gives you some idea of what to expect. And that becomes then your intro clip. So we also need to get an exit clip, which is similar but simpler. It's goodbye. We hope you've enjoyed this, or well, let me just bring up the script, as it were. So this is this is Holly signing off from DragonCon 2018. And signing off from the masquerade or whatever. Thanks for watching, something like that, just to wrap it up. And you want to make sure to actually do this. Now, when you do this, it's not that important. You could do it like while you're waiting for the costume contest to happen. You could do it. You can do both the intro and the outro at the very end, if you, of course, have a suitable background. You don't actually have to do it at the beginning of the event and the end of the event, because through the magic of editing, we can put it wherever we want. So just the point is to remember to actually do it and get that footage. While I have the script up, I'll say you also want to, when you talk to the interviewee, you want to say, thanks again for talking with DragonCon TV. I hope you enjoy the rest of the con, and so forth. So this we may not use. We're kind of less likely to use these, because if we have to cut it down for time, it starts to get redundant. But we do need the main intro and exit clips. So let me show you really quick the exit clip that we used for the Southern Fried Game Room Expo. I think it is right here.
So, we had a wonderful time. This is Holly from DragonCon TV signing off.
Anyway, that's the fairly simple, but you want to make sure to actually do that so that the editor, the producer, can put that in. Now, also, the producer will probably be nudging you to make sure that happens as well, but I'm telling you, the talent, to make sure that happens as well, because in case the producer forgets, it helps to have as many people as possible remembering this stuff. So, beyond that, some other tips. When you're talking to somebody, and this actually illustrates kind of a problem with sort of positioning. I said, of course, put the mic in between. For whatever reason, when we were talking to him here, he sort of turned toward Holly, and we sort of caught him from the side for the entire interview, which is not quite how we want to do it. Like, even here, it's especially obvious. He sort of started facing more or less the way we would want. but it sort of gradually turned the other way. So if there's anything you can do to sort of keep the person you're talking to, and of course yourself, sort of kind of facing a 45-degree angle toward the camera, that would help create the best possible shot. So that's one tip. The other thing one very important thing to do, I guess as an editor, this is probably my biggest pet peeve with talent is pausing between topics. So when you go from, it's easy to get excited, especially if you're nervous. But I would encourage you to, when you switch questions, to sort of stop. Take a breath and then start the next question. Don't immediately go from one question or one topic to another one. And the reason for that is it's pretty simple. If we decide that, like, let's say we want to use the first thing and not the second thing, or the second thing but not the first thing, when we go to do the editing, we can't. It becomes very awkward to sort of put a break there. Even I have sometimes had trouble doing like a 5-frame, which is a fraction of a second break, because it just sort of went too fast from one topic to another. So even if you have an awkwardly long break, that's better, because we can cut that down in editing. But what we can't do in editing is anything with really short breaks. And I'm going to go to the timeline here and see if I can find something like that. So here, Holly is doing that interview, and possibly here. Let me try playing this and see.
So many pinball machines, because those are
Actually, this is a little bit different. What I had to do here was to cut out. There was a bit of an awkward pause or some confusion. I forget exactly what it was. In fact, I could show you by let's find out what it was, shall we?
so many pinball.
Yeah, for some reason, if they're really long ums, we will try to cut those out. I guess don't worry too much about that. Again, if it's too long, we can cut stuff like that out. So all of that is to say, if there are flubs, if you stumble on something, or if you say the wrong word, or if the person you're talking to, of course, has some issue, we can cut that out. In fact, if you want, you can sort of rewind, go back a few words, and just sort of pause and start over, and the editor will know what to do. Especially since the editor, the producer, will probably be on the shoot, and they'll remember to sort of fix that up. You don't even necessarily need to start and stop the camera. So we can fix that sort of thing. It's the too short breaks that we really can't do much about, so just be careful with those. I couldn't really find one in here that from this particular shoot, but anyway, that's just something to be careful about. Another thing is some of our talent have done cosplay before. I believe it's usually pretty simple cosplay. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But we want to be able to, your face needs to be visible. And I guess while I'm talking about cosplay, if you are wearing something, just make sure it's not, completely inappropriate or something like that. You are supposed to be the, professional interviewer, so you can have some fun with it, but you don't want to take away from the talent or distract the viewer with something that you're wearing, or make it, hard to see your face or anything like that. Now, we didn't do that for the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, but if you are talking to children, so that means under 16 years old, you need to make sure to get parental consent. So, and also when you do get that consent, try to get that on camera. Just basically record the parent saying, I allow my daughter or son, name whatever, to appear on camera. And also, when you do talk to children, only use their first names, right? We could edit it out, but it's better to just use the first names. And while we're talking about names, I'm going to jump around here a little bit. But while we're talking about names, when you do talk to, you do need to get a sound check. Really, it's the camera operator is supposed to make sure that the sound check happens. But part of the sound check should be to get the first name and last name and affiliation, whatever it is necessary, from the person you're talking to. And the purpose of that is so that we can build these lower thirds that you see on the screen here.
How are you?
So. Yeah, so this is Preston Burt. He's the co-founder of the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, and that way the producer can look at those sound checks and then build the lower thirds. So that's one thing you want to do with the sound check. So that's really about it for the quick tips and tricks for talent. If you have any questions or comments, try to find me on Slack. And thanks for watching.